Hey, what's up, everyone? Mr. Hutch here. I am going to talk to you today about complementary and supplementary angles. Here's the images I want you to visualize. So if I draw a 90-degree angle here, and I separate that with any ray poking out of there, it doesn't matter where. The concept that we're learning is that a complementary angle is going to total the degrees of a corner. So remember, complementary and corner, we have angle A and angle B, and that just means that angle A plus angle B is always going to equal 90 degrees, okay? And that means that those two angles are complementary angles, okay? The next one we're going to focus on that I want you to write here is a supplementary pair of angles. And so we're going to draw a straight line, and we're going to write supplementary. Draw a line and say straight, 180 degrees, okay? Because a supplementary angle are two adjacent angles that when you add them, so angle A and angle B, angle A plus angle B, guess what they equal? Because it's a straight angle, they equal 180 degrees. Okay, and so you're going to remember supplementary creates a straight angle, complementary creates a corner. Okay, and those are the two angles we're going to be working with. So obviously you can solve for one or the other by understanding that concept. So let's go ahead and get through here. As far as this learn section, I just want you to follow along. They're letting you know what complementary angles are. And so if we have an angle of 60 degrees, the complementary angle would be this angle that forms the 90 degrees. So 60 plus what equals 90? Well, obviously our x has to equal 30 degrees. Okay, and so because x equals 30, the measure of the angle complementary to the 60-degree angle is 30 degrees. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and head down to some checks here. Select the angle that is complementary to this given angle. So they're giving us 23, so go ahead and test it out on your own. Okay, we're thinking complementary corner, so if I look at this 90 degree, what does this angle have to be? What does x have to be? And so we know 90 minus 23 will create x. Okay, and so you can go ahead and make your choice. Okay, and if you picked B for 67 degrees, you would be correct. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next section. Use complementary angles to find missing values. So step one, they're saying angle BAC and angle CAD are complementary and have a sum of 90 degrees. Write the relationship between angles. So all we would do is we would write the measurement of angle BAC, and that's what that symbol M means, is measurement of angle BAC equals 90. And so they solve that out. 9x plus 36 equals 90. Solve for x. And so we end up subtracting 36 from both sides, and we get 9x equals 54. Divide both sides by 9. 54 divided by 9 is 6. So the value of x is 6. Okay, that doesn't mean that the answer is 6 degrees, though. Okay, that just means that's what x is. All we did was solve for x. So you have to plug 6 in for x, and you would get 6 times 9 is 54 degrees. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and move to example 2. It says, use your understanding of complementary angles to find missing values. So we continue this concept. We know that this angle is 90, and so go ahead and fill in your equation here. You could do 28 plus 2x or 2x plus 28. It doesn't matter. Okay, and then we start solving for x. Subtract 28 from both sides. Then we divide both sides by 2. 62 divided by 2, it already tells us x equals 31. Okay. Now, that's, again, just what x equals. So we need to actually plug in the 31 to x. And we have 2 times 31 is 62 degrees. Okay, and if you add 62 plus 28, we do get 90. And so that is a reasonable and correct answer. All right, let's go ahead and try this one on your own. Okay, you need to write an equation and solve. So because we know that those are, let's look at our diagram here. Complementary angles, okay? They make up a corner. We know that they equal 90 degrees. So let's go ahead and create your equation. We have 10 plus 8x, we know equals 90 because they're complementary, making up a corner. Okay, and then we can solve. So subtract 10 by both sides. Okay, and we have 8x equals 80. And then divide by 8 both sides, and we get x equals 10. Now you have to substitute for x, and we know that this section is 80 degrees. Now obviously that's something you could have figured out just by doing 90 minus 10 and figuring out what that is, but this is our work to complete that problem. All right, now let's go ahead and move on to understanding supplementary angles. Again, if I scroll up, complementary are corners, supplementary are 2 adjacent angles that make a straight angle or 180 degrees. So that's all we're doing, same concept. So we know that angle 3 and angle 4 plus angle 4 equal 180 degrees. Okay, and so you can see they wrote measurement of angle 3 plus measurement of angle 4 equals 180. Same thing we just did. So let's go ahead and look at an example. They're giving you an angle and they're asking what is the angle that is supplementary. Notice a lot of times they don't show you the full straight line. Okay, and so you're going to have to extend to help visualize that. And so we're wondering what this is. So let's go ahead and plug x into this spot here. We know that x plus 135 has to equal 180 degrees because they're supplementary to each other. And so 180 minus 135 to both sides will tell us what x is. 180 minus 135 is x equals 45 degrees. Okay, and so what is the sum of the angle measures of supplementary angles? We know that's 180 degrees. They're going to break it down here for us. They're going to do the math work we just did to get our official answer. Okay, so we're just moving a little faster through here. What is the angle measure of the angle that is supplementary? So remember, supplementary means straight. Okay, so let's extend a straight line here. And we're going to solve for x. So we know that the total is 180 degrees minus 67. So we can just do 180 minus 67 equals x. And solve for x. Okay, so we have 113 equals x, and that is in degrees. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and look at supplementary angles when you have an expression put in that spot. Obviously, this is a more simple expression, but it could be something more complicated where you have to do distributing and combining like terms and all that kind of stuff. So we know that this entire angle is 180 degrees, and so we could write the equation 108 plus 4x equals 180, or 180 minus 108. That's what we're going to do here anyway. And we end up with 4x equals whatever 180 minus 108 is, and it's 72. Divide by 4, and we have x equals 72 divided by 4 is 18. Okay, and so you can see they did all that work here and got the same answer as us. Okay, but remember, that's just what x equals. So if we're solving for x, we did that. If we actually want to know what the angle is, we would put 18 into there, and 18 times 4 is actually 72 degrees. Okay, so just keeping that in mind every time. All right, example number 4. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. They want us to find the value of x. So they are just asking for the value of x, not that angle. So let's go ahead and walk through this process just as before. So we have our 10x plus the 80. Now I want you to see the straight line, okay, and actually write this and see the 180 degrees. So you're going to have to visually look at things like that to go, oh, I know that 10x plus 80 has to equal 180 degrees because it's all sitting on a straight line. And then we can go ahead and subtract 80 from both sides and start solving for x. And we have 100 degrees equals 10x. So we already know that side, okay, because this is 10x and this is 10x. We already know that this angle is 100 degrees because it has to equal 180. They're asking us, though, what is x? So we divide by 10, and we end up with x equals 10. Okay, all right. And then here you can see all the work, write the equation, solve, x equals 10, and there we go. So let's go ahead and test out here. Here's a good one for you to practice. So write and solve an equation to find the value of x. So first, go ahead and write the equation. We see the straight line. Okay, this would be a good time for you to pause and see if you can write the equation and solve for x. All right, so you should have, for an equation, 132 plus 5x plus 4. And you can get rid of the parentheses at this point. The parentheses are just to contain it when they're labeling over there. And all this equals 180 degrees. Okay, you can see we need to do some combining of like terms. And so we have our 132 and our 4 there. So equals 136 plus 5x equals 180. Then we can subtract 136 from both sides. And so 180 minus 136 equals 44. And so 5x equals 44. Divided by 5, and we get x equals 8.8. I guess I could put it right in that spot. And that's just what x equals. And so if I did want to actually solve for this side, I could plug in 8.8, or we know that we could just do 180 minus 32. 132, sorry. And we would have 48 degrees on this side because they're supplementary to each other. Okay, so let's just double check. So 5 times 8.8 plus the 4, and you can see we still get the 48 degrees. All right, down here, last little bit here. Here's an engineering task. A lot of times when you're doing engineering, an engineer might say, hey, for this to support the weight that we need, you're going to have to decrease this angle 7% or things like that. And so what we're doing is we're combining our old learning with our new learning. They're letting you know that angle X needs to be about 7% less to be more supportive. So what is the measure of the new angle? Well, we first need to identify the angle X. This is where you're looking at, okay, I see this straight line, so I know everything on this straight line adds up to 180 degrees. And so we have 180 minus 35 equals, or x plus 35 equals 180. Okay, if I subtract 35 from both sides, you can see it's the same thing as doing 180 minus 35. Okay, so 180 minus 35 equals x. So let's go ahead and do that with our calculator just to make sure we're not making mistakes. And we have 145. Okay, so 145 degrees equals x. What they're telling us, though, is that they need x to be 7% less. So we know how to find 7% of something. That's just multiplication. So let's go ahead and do that work over here on the side. So we can say we want 7% of 145. That's going to tell us what 7% is. We need to subtract that at the end. So 7% less. So my 7%, if I do my swoops, is 0.07 times 145. Okay, and let's figure out what this equals. 0.07 times 145. So 7% of that is 10.15. Okay, so we need to go ahead and take that 7% less, okay, because really this is 7%. Okay, and so we'll take our 145 minus 10.15, okay, minus 10.15, and we get 134.85 degrees. Okay, and so this is the amount of degrees that x needs to be. Okay, and so that's how we're going to take a percentage less than something. Okay, and so how do you calculate the 7% decrease? Right here. Okay, all right, now's the check. It's time for you to go ahead and try this out. So the measure of angle X needs to be reduced by 46.2%. So go ahead and solve for X and then find what is 46.2% of that. And then make sure you actually reduce it. It does say round to the nearest degree then at the end. So go ahead and pause and try that out on your own, and then you can check with me. All right, so first of all, finding angle X. So we know that here's our straight line, and this whole thing equals 180 degrees. And so we have x plus 115 equals 180, or we can do 180 minus 115 will equal x. So 180 minus 115 is 65. So 65 degrees is what x is. Okay, and we need to go ahead and reduce that by 46.2%, which is almost half. So it should be somewhere around 33, 34, or something like that, because that's about half. So let's go ahead and see if we can figure this out. So we need to take 46.2 less than that. So I'm going to go straight up to my work here and do my swoops to the left to turn this into a decimal. So a 0.462. So let's go ahead and set this up. So 0.462 times 65%. 0.462 times 65% is 30.03. Okay, that is just, remember, the reduction that we need to take. Okay, and so we still have to go ahead and do our reduction. And so we have, starting at 65 degrees, we're going to subtract 30.03 degrees, and let's see what we get. So 65 minus 30.03, and we get 34.97 degrees. It says round to the nearest degree, which would be 35 degrees. And so that is my answer. Okay, hopefully you got that right. All right, you can skip foldables. This is your homework. So go ahead and just pay attention to what you're doing. So complementary are the two adjacent angles that are making corners or 90 degrees. Supplementary make the straight line of 180 degrees. And then they want you to write and solve an equation for those three, as well as 10, 11, and 12. Okay, because they just want the value of x, not the new degree. Because the new degree would be easy. It would just take either 180 or 90 minus the 1. They want you actually solve for x. Okay. So you can also see they're telling you it's just like examples 2 and 4 if you need to go back up and look. On the back, these are your decreasing problems. Here's an increasing by 20%. And so these are similar to the problem we did right here, if you need to go back up and check. And then 15 through 18 are just going to be a variety of different things for you to think about and write about. So go ahead and get those done, and then we'll check that the next day.